Okay, so this question here comes from Unit 2, Activity 2, and it's question 1 of Part C. I already posted question 2 of Part C, but here's question 1. So to solve for n, when you have brackets like this, it means that it's combinations. I know that some files showed up as n with a fraction line, but it actually should not have the fraction line. It's just kind of floating there. So if you have a fraction line, please make sure that you erase that. And that's the formula for combinations, as I just mentioned, which is n factorial over n minus r factorial times r factorial. So we're going to expand this first expression, which deals with combinations. So it'll be n factorial over n minus 2 factorial times 2 factorial. And don't forget the minus n and the equals 54. At this point, we want to expand on one of these factorials. So we don't want to expand on n minus 2 factorial because it won't help us simplify. So I'm going to factor out, or expand, n factorial, which is n times n minus 1. And I'm going to stop at n minus 2 factorial because that's where I'm able to simplify the n minus 2 factorials. So at this point, you've got a multiplication happening. There's actually two multiplications. N times n is n squared, and n times negative 1 is negative 1n. So don't forget that this part only is over 2, because 2 factorial is 2 times 1, and 2 times 1 is equal to 2. Here's the tricky part. So most people will be able to get to this point, but this is the next part that's difficult. You want to get rid of your fractions. And to get rid of fractions, you have to recognize what's going on. So there's a division by 2 happening, which means that if I multiply by 2, I can just scratch them out. But that makes your equation extremely unbalanced. So that means you need to multiply everything else by 2. So I need to multiply this by 2, and I need to multiply the 54 by 2. So when I do that, I end up with n squared minus 1n, because I canceled them out right over here. But negative 2 times n is negative 2n. So this is the hard part. If you don't understand this, maybe get a hold of me and I'll try to give you different examples to work on. 54 times 2 is 108. I think we're just going to double check that. Okay. Yeah, 108. Okay. So at this point, you should see that there's some like terms happening right here. So we're gonna have n squared. When you have one negative and two more negatives, it actually becomes negative 3n. And because this is a quadratic relationship, because of the exponent of 2, we want our equation equal to 0. So to make that equation equal to 0, I'm going to subtract 108 from each side. So I'm left with this, equals 0. So if you remember anything from quadratic relationships, you know that you had to find two numbers that multiply to 108. There's quite a few different possibilities. So what I normally do is I pull up my calculator and I start with 108 divided by 1. 108 divided by 1 gives me 108, but 108 and 1 will not be able to be manipulated to be able to get negative 3n. So I'll write that down. Okay, so 1 times 108 works, but if you try to add 1 and 108 or subtract 1 and 108, it does not in any way, shape, or form give you negative 3. So that does not work. So then I keep playing around. So I go 108 divided by 2. Oops, I'm sorry. 108 divided by 2 is 54. Well, 2 and 54 can't be manipulated to get negative 3 either, so I just move on. 108 divided by 3, sorry. So 108 divided by 3. Oh my goodness. 108 divided by 3 is 36. 3 and 36 also doesn't work. So I try 4. 4 and 27 doesn't work. By 5, 5 is a decimal, so that definitely doesn't work. 6 is also a decimal. 7 is probably a decimal. 8 and 13.5 is a decimal. 9 and 12. Oh, 9 and 12. So 9 times 12, if you just double check, gives you 108. So 9 times 12 gives you 108. but can also be played around with to get -3. So if you try that, -12 plus 9 gives you -3, which means I need a negative because we also want -108. Okay, this question here says that it's -108. I usually ignore the negative up until the end, until this part, but I know that my two numbers are 9 and -12. Okay, so you just go n plus 9 and n minus 12 equals 0. Now, I know this takes a while, and if you have a hard time with this, you can basically just go to Desmos. So if you type in desmos.com, start graphing. If you type in that equation using x's, so the equation is n squared minus 3n minus 108. So x squared minus 3x minus 108. And you'll see that if I squeeze in a little bit, there will be two dots showing up, one of which is 12 and one of which is -9. So if you look at our work, we kind of did the opposite there, but we need to find what the n values are. So what you do at this point, you put n plus 9 equal to 0, and you put n minus 12 equal to 0. To cancel out the plus 9, you subtract 9 on each side. To cancel out minus 12, you go plus 12 on each side. So I have the same answer as Desmos. It just took me a few extra steps. So I would recommend using Desmos to find these solutions. Just don't forget to have your solutions very clear. I've circled them so they're extremely clear. And maybe what I'll do is just kind of highlight just to make it doubly clear.